Hello all, my name is Madison. I am the Community Initiatives Manager here at Open LMS, and I want to welcome everyone to What's New in Open LMS EDU. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Andy Braden and Laura Martin, who will be leading our session today. So I'll hand it over to them to tell you what's new in Open LMS EDU.
Thank you. Thank you, Madison. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this session. We are very, very pleased to have you here and just taking the time to see what's coming in our 3.10 release this time. So my name is Laura Martin. I'm product manager, and this is Andy Braden. I know you, most of you should have already known him, but still. So let me start by sharing my screen and start the presentation. Okay. Perfect. So you should already be seeing my presentation. Yeah, right. Okay, so let's start first by talking about our schedule for this release. So the 3.10 release is a major release, and it's coming or came to our sandbox or the sandbox side on June 10th, 2021. And the production release is coming on July 8th. So in a couple of weeks. We will be sending out some communications to you. One coming in the next few days, maybe next week, early next week, and the other right after the production release. Since you already have the 3.10 on your sandbox, we really invite you to take a look at it, maybe do some testing of the new features, and just play around with it and reach out if you have any question around this new release. Okay, so what's coming in this release? First, we have our Moodle highlights. So we have everything that is coming with this new release from Moodle Core. And then we have our Open LMS highlights. So for the Moodle updates, I'll hand it over to Andy to walk us through what's coming in this new release from Moodle Core.
Thanks. Well, let's dive right in. So from Moodle Core, we had a few interesting sort of additions and updates, a couple of them funded from our friends over at the Moodle Users Association, including this download course content functionality. The download course content function is familiar sounding if you've been using the mobile app at all. It's essentially the same functionality, except that it works through the browser interface and the browser experience. So the idea is that you could head into your course and download sections of content or all of the content in a course. It gives you some warnings, as you can see, the appropriate information about, hey, those are really big. You're sure you want to download all that stuff. And there are also some settings in there as the administrator you can manage around. What's the maximum file size to include in the package? So if there are individual files in a course that are larger than some number that you choose, those will be left out of the download package by default. It gives you some good controls. Overall, you have to enable the feature for the site at the site level, and then you have to enable it within individual courses, or you can enable it for all the courses at once by changing the default settings for courses to say yes to that instead of the default from the system, which is no. So it's a interesting option. It gives you a little more flexibility on device use and the ability to download content and store it locally. It's not as robust as working offline in the mobile app, but it does give you some ways to interact with content without being connected necessarily. So that was kind of cool. Next up is the H5P Improvements section. So there were some enhancements made to Core's H5P tool that allows you to modify the look and feel of the player that H5P comes in. So the wrapper that comes around the content, essentially. It gives you a little bit of flexibility around branding, really is what it boils down to. So if you felt really strongly about, I don't like that black bar, I think it needs to be maroon because that's our color, or whatever the answer is. You've got that power in there now, and it gives you the ability to modify that system-wide. So really, it's an opportunity to do a little brand matching and a little styling. And the footnote in there, which I think is the bigger piece, is that now the content bank actually works a little bit more like what you probably pictured when you heard content bank, which is that now you can really interact with the files in the content bank. You can replace them with local files or local copies of files. For folks like me that use Lumi a lot as a desktop application to author H5P content, it really gives you an opportunity to more easily manage those files that you built on your desktop by just replacing the existing file to update that content rather than having to create a whole new thing out of it each time. So it's pretty slick. The other element in there is a bit of a warning, which is that embedded H5P content now will show up in the gradebook. So, so if you've embedded content and you've told it that you wanted a grade in the first place, it now will cooperate and try to put a grade in the gradebook. It can lead to some confusion in naming. So be cautious about how you want to deploy that. And if you've been playing around with H5P, you might be surprised to discover that you have a whole bunch of graded activities that you didn't think you did before. It's not the worst thing, I suppose, because you can just go in and turn off the grading and go away. But don't be surprised when that happens. Check out your content in the sandbox ahead of time. Make sure everything is going to work the way you want it to. The next piece on H5P was just a note about migration. This isn't actually brand new in this release, but it's new since the last release. So it's something that we alluded to in that last release and talked about a need for, but we've already provided this in one of the maintenance packs. But it's an H5P migration tool is available on the platform. So now there's a tool at the administrative level that you can use to take content that was authored in the community-based H5 Roman numeral V P tool and convert it into CORE's H5P activities. It works on the activities and it creates other activities out of those activities. It gives you a master list of all the content that it sees in the system that could be converted. It keeps track of which ones have already been converted. So once you convert a piece of content, it drops off the list, which is kind of nice. And then it gives you some settings to choose from. So you can say, I want that content to be inside the content bank and linked to it. So when I update the file, it gets updated. And you can also manage what happened to the old content. So do you delete it? Do you leave it there? Do you hide it? Whatever you want to do with it. So it's a pretty cool tool. My cautions on that would be resist the urge to go in and click every checkbox and push the button because you might be sad. It might take a while. My testing on it has been really it's been pretty rapid, to be honest, but I have every confidence that there are some number of H5P content objects out there that it will hit that will take it down and, 20 minutes later it will finish or something. So don't find that out the hard way. Test it out, play with it, do it in small chunks, make sure it's doing what you thought it was going to do. Again, sandboxes are great, so check it out. The last note on H5P is really just a reminder from prior conversations about this as well. Make sure that when you're in there thinking about H5P, there's the community plugin and there's the Moodle Core plugin. You should choose one of those to be your jam and stick with it. So don't run them both at the same time. Like I've got in this screen here, you don't want two different H5P buttons that show up for people to make content and have them guess at which one they want to use. It should just be really simple. So hide the one that you don't want to use, take out in the role capabilities, the ability to add new versions of that one, whatever it is you want to do. Take the opportunity to use the converter to convert from the older one, the black logo one here, into the newer blue logoed H5P content. Susan, do you need to ask for the H5P converter to be installed? No, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but no, it should show up in the administration menu. If it isn't, it should just be its own little object right in the menu. If it's not showing up in there, raise a flag with support and see if they can turn it on. But it should be there for you already.
Yeah, it should be available, but not active. So you should activate it if available. If you don't see it, as Andy said, you can request it, but it should be out there.
Yeah, the little eyeball, poke the eyeball, I like to say. The sharp stick in the eye. All right, so that's my quick rundown on H5P. Payment gateways is another enhancement or an improvement that's in Moodle Core that we've got access to with this release. It moves sort of your classic PayPal plugin idea into a larger framework that's a little better integrated along the lines of what a plugin for enrollments really looks like, and scaffolds it in a way that allows you to do more payment gateway plugins than just the PayPal. PayPal is the one that ships with it. There are a few other payment plugins that are already available. Over time, more and more payment gateway systems will be added as they get their API plugins kind of squared away. But if you're using PayPal today, take a look at it. It works better. It uses PayPal's newer API set. And so PayPal is going to want you to go that way too. But it's a lot easier to use. And it does have some better scaffolding for using things like Alipay and eventually things like Authorize.net and Stripe, which should be showing up in there over time. So it's kind of cool. It's sort of neat. I think of it as something that's evolving. But if you're already using PayPal, test it out in the sandbox and see if it's going to give you some of the features you wished that the PayPal plugin had on. Some other cool stuff from Moodle Core. There's some enhancements to quizzes and questions, mostly focused on user experience, things that make it better. Right? So one of the kind of high ticket items for requests over time has always been creating a completion condition check on the number of attempts. So I don't want to have the condition be that you've passed necessarily. I just want the condition to be you've run out of chances to pass, basically. So that condition is available now. It's a new completion condition event trigger that's supported inside the tool. And one of my favorite ones is coming back in Moodle 1.9. The timer now moves down the screen as you scroll down the screen. So I used to cleverly design my quizzes to be really short so that you did never have to scroll. So the timer was always there. If you're like me, now you can make long pages and pages and pages of questions for your students to just be overwhelmed with. But the timer will scroll down the page as they scroll. So it's pretty nice. And then the last little bit was a kind of a good closure moment on the essay questions. The file upload process now not only supports file type selection, but maximum file size. So it's complete and consistent with everything else as far as file uploads. Speaking of file uploads, it's like Laura knew my cues. There are some enhancements to the way that files display inside the system. There's a lot of subtlety to some of those changes, but it's really, I think, for student perspective, a much nicer and more usable experience, including the ability to get in there and expand content in the screen to see it inside the browser a little larger, right? So if I'm looking at a picture, I don't have to squint or use Control Plus or something. I can actually click on the picture and make it bigger and see the actual picture, and then I can click like that. So it's really nice. It's some slick stuff. And I'm going to hand it back over to my good friend Laura.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, So let's go over then the Open LMS updates that we have for the release. So well, first, let me tell you that for this release, we really focused on UX and UI improvements and just getting all those Moodle core features integrated successfully. So the next couple of slides are going to focus on those UX improvement that we have done mostly to Snap in order to improve the general experience of our students and teachers, and of course admins. So first, we have an improvement to the Snap navigation. When you had within a quiz more than 25 questions or 30 questions, then the navigation menu became really unfriendly. So we just wrapped it up and made some improvements so that it's easier to navigate the questions within a quiz. We also made some adjustment to the page resource so that the displays, even though it doesn't have any text, will also display correctly images, videos, and anything that is within that content piece. We also added some improvements to the pop-up option of the page, since actually in Snap, that pop-up option is not viable because it opens directly on the page, so not a pop-up. So we just kind of added a message and said why this is not available in Snap. So in order to reduce the confusion around this option that is available in other Moodle core themes, just as Classic or Boost. We also added some important fix to the browse schema display of our admin SQL reports, so that it's really easier and better to navigate and just interact with this schema display. And finally, we also did some improvement to the quizzes with drag and drop images. Users were not able to see what images were being dragged or dropped when editing the question. So we added this in order to improve the usability of this editing of quizzes. Also, as you know, it is our objective always in every release and during the whole year to really focus on accessibility and accessibility improvements. As you know, we have done our VPAT or voluntary product accessibility template for Boost and Snap in 2020. This is a documentation that is available to you guys if you need to see how accessible we are. But in general, what it does is that it reviews how accessible each and every side of our platform is using both Snap or Boost, and how easy it is for users to interact with it. So when creating an activity or when grading a quiz or those types of workflows. So if you want to check them out, please let us know. They are on our release notes and also on our community site as PDFs. But in this regard, we always try to review the VPAT and focus on the elements that are not completely accessible and just fix them throughout the year and just add them to our releases. We will also, in this moment, are also reviewing next VPAT for 2021 or early 22 in order to keep on reviewing our platform and also now the work platform. So based on the 2020 VPAT, we have made some major accessibility improvements, mostly to Snap. Also, we have to say that if we find some accessibility issues that are core based, we also send the patches to core so that they can also implement those improvements into the platform and into the core code. So for Snap, what have we done? We have homogenize underline decorations and hover actions so that it's clear that all elements that are clickable are items like links or just action items. We've also been very careful to add specific IDs and differentiation of those IDs so that it's easier for accessibility tools to identify those elements. And of course, adding area labels and titles to every element so that it's also easier to read and clear for users that have any kind of disability in order to navigate correctly the platform. And finally, one of our specific elements that we changed was the snap carousel in order for the navigations to be able to do it with the keyboard, and also that are visibly hovered in hover state. So those are some of the accessibility improvements that we have done for particularly this 3.10. If you want to know more about our accessibility objective and what we do, please reach out and we'll share more information in this regard. Okay, moving back to Andy, who will talk about a bit our updated plugins.
Thank you. Yeah, those accessibility updates are really cool and awfully nice. Those specific accessibility improvements were for the Snap theme and not the classic theme. But Core has been making their own improvements, and like Laura was saying, sometimes when the issue is inside the Core code, we pass those patches back to Core, so they should be working their way through as well. I'd say overall classics, it's not as looked at as Boost, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were probably some odd corners that that both Boost and Snap have resolved that Classic is not. But it should inherit most of the fixes that Boost gets because it's a child theme of Boost. That might be too much information, but yeah.
We know you love accessibility.
Exactly. But I'm super excited about these enhancements and improvements. They're great stuff, and it's good to focus on our commitment to making sure things are working right. So. Plus, I like it when the on-huffers are always good. So yay. So let's talk about some updated plugins and what's new. There are a lot of updates to plugins, but not too many. Most of the plugin updates are coming in from small changes to the tools, but there are some significant ones as well. Let's talk about those real quick. Microsoft Office 365 suite has gotten a major overhaul for the plugins, and there's a whole update to I'd say probably most all of the tools inside that tool suite have gotten some improvements and enhancements in this release. If you got some questions about those, let's circle around those, and maybe we can fire up a separate session to dive into them. But since it only applies to everybody that's on Microsoft, I thought we wouldn't talk forever about it. But they are really cool, and we've got a nice relationship going with the team at Microsoft that manages new plugins, and so things are looking positive in that front. There are a lot of updates to a lot of vendor plugins that are coming through, and then we've got some new plugins that are both from Moodle Core and from us. From Core, the enrollment for a fee and the payment gateway plugins are really tied together. That's that sort of package for the element that we talked about, what's new in Moodle. There's also an infected files report that's available for you to be able to get a report coming back from the antivirus that we're running that says files have got issues a little more cleanly. I think up till now, it's always been a bit of an email to the admin sort of approach to that tool. So it's nice to actually have a sort of longitudinal record, so you can go back and go, right, so we've only had a handful of files until all of a sudden, or something like that. It's not me just making that up. So those are pretty nice. And then from us, there's a couple of really exciting plugins that should be released today, I think, to the sandboxes. So they're not there right now. So if you're poking at your sandbox and looking at the release notes, these are actually sneaky surprises, let's say. Happy birthday.
Yeah, they should be. They should be out today. for requests. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in them, you can write a support ticket in order to activate them in your support site and just check them out from tomorrow on. Back to you.
So we have the course size report, which is a new reporting element from the Open LMS report suite that gives you visibility. So, up until now, you could see kind of your overall storage footprint and specifically the footprint of backup files. But now you can actually see the course level impact of those files, right? Which courses are those files living in, where they're coming from, that kind of stuff. And then there's also a little widget that allows you to create and manage blocks across the site in bulk. So it's really cool. There's a great release video that Laura's hovering over there. You should check it out. And there's some good notes on these plugins that give you the details. But those are pretty cool plugins. I'm pretty jazzed about them. And there's always more fun to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Oh, gee, okay. Okay, so moving forward, what is going to happen in the next few months? So as you know, we at this point are focusing on our two products now, EDU and work, and whatever or the path that both need to really cover those needs of our different markets. But specifically for EDU, we have for 2021 identified 3 major challenges for our customers that we really want to address moving forward. So the first one is to deliver quality content at scale with limited resources. So for that challenge that our clients are facing, we want to focus on deliver tools for mass creation of content, keep on doing everything around automation, oh my God, automation, sorry, automation, and just to improve the experience for content creators. So this reaches our or links to tools as our centralized content management tool in order to create and replicate content throughout courses, PLD, and keep on improving PLD for automation, and also just reviewing our general experience in Snap and other creation tools and integrations. Then we have to deploy a reliable platform that responds to increased demands to meet new learning models. So for that, we will keep on investing in architecture, scalability, and performance. We know that many of our clients are getting bigger and have a bigger requests for the platform and how it processes and performs. So we will keep on investing so that we can reach those necessities. And finally, the last challenge that we have identified for our clients is that they want to increase the learning engagement and facilitate teaching best practices. And for that, we are committed to increase our accessibility, as we discussed, to keep on investing in UX experience and also keep on expanding our capabilities either internally or through new integrations. So in general, what does that look like for our current differentiators and for new differentiators coming forward? So for Conduit, we will keep on working on scalability and support of bigger transactions. In Snap, accessibility, user experience, and there's also new talks about a possibility of a new theme, a new simplified theme that we are reviewing and that we will share with you also coming along. Then we have PLD. We want to work on a PLD tool that works at site level. As you know, PLD is very constrained to the course and rules to the course, but we are looking into a way to have PLD work at site level so that rules can apply to a more transversal way to the platform. But of course, keep on improving PLD, adding more activities, more support, and more actions that you as clients have been requesting. Finally, our CCM, I don't know if you already know our centralized content management tool. If not, we will invite you to see it. Right now, we are doing for the production release some accessibility improvements and usability improvements to this tool. It's being redesigned and it's looking really good. I hope to send them out and how it looks in the next release notes communication. So to keep you posted on how it's going to look like. It's way easier to work around it. And also just keep on adding elements to our centralized content management so that it supports more activities and elements and resources of Moodle. So the next one that we have in our spot is a quiz, so that you can massively create quizzes and just replicate throughout courses. And then for other elements or topics that we are looking into for the next couple of months are my account that is going to be that, oh, sorry, I just saw a question. Would you consider the site-wide PLD as better than or potentially replacing user tours? Just brainstorming. Um, I think it's kind of a different approach for PLD site-wide because it's going to be more focused on action. So, for example, that site-wide PLD will be able to say, please enroll this cohort into these courses once they finish this quiz, for example, or something more like that action-based, or send a pop-up information or a notification when users participate or see the forum on the homepage, for example. So it's a bit different. I think they will complement each other in a way, but it's more focused on actions and automated actions for our clients on site level.
It's more conditional. So it would be being able to add a conditional clause to when a user tour type interaction would trigger potentially. But user tours are better designed for walking me through stuff, right? So step by step by step by step. But it's true, Ed, I know that you're probably in the same boat. I've used user tours as sort of a notification system as well. So I make a one-screen user tour that pops up for a limited time window on the front page that says, hey, don't forget something, something. And the site level or site-wide PLD might be able to replace that in a better way, because then I can track who's looked at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, perfect. Thank you, Andy. Okay, then we have, as I was saying, we have my account page. This is my account page. I don't know if you have seen it, but it's a space particular for admins where they get more transversal information about the platform. So we are committed to keep on increasing the information that admin gets on these sites. Right now, they have active users and just storage counts on their site, but we will keep on adding more information so that they can have it all gathered and transversal, as I said, not just very specific to courses within this view. And of course, we are really excited about reporting and analytics. We have a new product manager that is going to be focused on analytics and improving all our options of analytics transversal to our products. So his name is Chris Megahan, based in the USA. So we are very excited of him coming along and starting investing in this area. Yes, that's very cool. And then we have scalability. As I said, we know this is a huge demand because clients are migrating to e-learning way more that also because of our current circumstances in the world. So we are committed to make larger quizzes higher concurrency a reality and keep on improving our scalability. And finally, we're looking also on how to extend our integrations, focusing on LTI and other, of course, tools that are available in our community and LTG family. So that's our focus for the next couple of months. We are currently working on both the roadmaps with specific features for the upcoming months, sorry. So we'll keep you posted as soon as we have that publicly and share with you so that you can look forward for what is coming for Open LMS EDU and work. Okay, and just to finalize or to finish this, we will share this with you some important links that you can keep in mind. First are the release notes, where we go over in detail of what is coming in 3.10. The release videos, we also have a playlist of how this release is working, and our community site. If you aren't already there, we will invite you to just participate in the community, share any ideas, comments, or any questions that you have, and we'll be happy to respond to them. Okay, so that was it. Do you have any questions, any comments around what we and Andy have talked about in the last few minutes?
We'll give you a minute to type. Yeah, thank you, and we hope you had fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. If we have no other questions, we can wrap it up. The recording will be available at this same link that you joined the live session at, but if you register for the session, it will also be emailed to you, as well as you'll be able to just find this on our main YouTube page. Thank you so much to our speakers, Andy and Laura, for diving in here. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming, and we will have more product updates coming soon about Open LMS work. So please look forward to those. But I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.